Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here to share my experience with you, and maybe later, of course, later having the chance to hear more about you and have this kind of mentorship opportunity. About me, quickly, I started my to work at the age of 14. I came in from a modest family in Italy. So to gain some kind of money for sustain my study in high school, during the summer, I was working like waiter, like bartender and stuff like that. After that, I started to work in 1992. Yes, 30 years. I'm 48, by the way. And as a software developer, software engineer, that's my first passion. My first passion is coding. And I think that there is not been much more poetry of sending a good piece of code. In my life, I did, if I can say, 4.5 startup. The first one was in 2000. It was a telco startup. It was called Fastweb, in which I was the IT manager, and I built up 2 kind of data center from scratch. Very exciting time in 2 years. The second one, it was Carta Facile. It was backed by a local bank in Italy. And the great thing is that it was one of the first projects that we bring in Central Bank of Italy, that as the business model was our rechargeable prepaid cards. As you know, before 2002, the prepaid cards was a kind of gift, one-shot gift card. So you can pick $50, $10, $100 in grocery shop, spend it until the balance was zero. We taken the business model from the telco rechargeable SIM and bring in the financial services. So let me say we invented the rechargeable prepaid card. It was one of the first one. It was called Carta Facile. The third one is we bring PayPal in Italy. Of course, I didn't starting up completely PayPal in US, but I bring the US product in Italy as a head of product development. Really another intense kind of period of my life, because localizing a US product in a market, in payment market like Italian, where the prepaid cards one of the kind of king payment instrument for a matter of security perception. It has been really something, a tough journey, but very, very intense and very, very exciting. The fourth one was, of course, non-payments. Non-payments, when I landed in this region in 2015, late 2015, was one of the founder of Noon.com. I was taking care about, I was CEO of Non-Payments. Non-Payments was one of the 3 company in the group. There was Noon.com, that is the owner of the e-commerce platform, the Noon Logistic for the logistic kind of delivery, plus the payments company. And with Noon, we started up completely incorporating the company, made a team, and building completely from scratch the product, the payment platform, with a very clear strategy from the beginning to become one of the acquirers in the region. And now there is .alpha that I didn't explain. .alpha, the Alpha kind of started because with the EW Bank in 2007, we launched a kind of Revolut N26 web version of e-money bank account with a specific kind of part of the product that was the merchant services built on a payment gateway completely developed by us, by the business unit, with our developers, and with a direct connection and having the license directly from Visa MasterCard with a direct connection with Visa MasterCard. So we jump completely in a way we engineered also the value chain in the payment, and to gain much more margin and to be much more efficient and bringing this kind of efficiency to the merchant. And we launched in the market one of the most convenient payment gateway that it was called EW Smile in Italy, and then it was in Europe. And now I'm in MBF as a head of customer experience and platform development, and I'm taking care about digital transformation in the bank. That said like that is something that's quite standard, not so, but the cultural thing, the cultural change management is something that is very challenging, especially for banks that are typically a bit traditional from a cultural perspective, rigid from a business model perspective. So that's the challenge. It's not like launching a kind of digital product, or of course that is one of the components of the strategy, but is that the cultural thing is changing the way in which we are doing things for adapting ourselves better to the market. That is one of the milestone and my personal objective that we have. So that's in brief. I usually don't define myself, to be honest. I'm preferring that the things that I did in my career, my professional journey, define myself. So it's up to you in defining myself. I'm tending to not define myself. Fatima, if you want maybe to let them to share something from their experience, if you want.
Sure. So let's open the floor to questions. Anything that you would like to bring up to David, feel free to raise your hand or to type anything in the chat box.
If I can just break the ice with one thing that I have to say in common. I'm expecting that all of you guys, or the majority of you, they are in a startup, or they want to create a startup, launch something. If I try to connecting the dot and try to understand which is in common in my experience that I have, not just on the startup, but also in other kind of experience that I have, it's the try to define kind of point B to achieve in any kind of journey that I have with the company startup that I experienced in my life. Always at the beginning, I tried always to be clear or define with the organization a kind of point B to reach. I can feel a kind of feeling that, when the organization and the startup give you a sort of mandate to achieve, to try to achieve something. And when you are defining this kind of something, the point B, because you are in a point A, and you have to move in a point B. If I have to, the fil rouge that I found in my experience is try to define this as much as I can, the point B, because the more you are clear and how you see the point B and how you're defining the communicating to others, to your team, to all the board, the point B is really, really key, because when everyone has clear this kind of point B, automatically they are pointing without, let me say, sometimes being micromanaging them. That's not more my style, but it just let's see where we have to go, and let's see to remove the roadblock of the organization to achieve this kind of point B. That is something that I always try to do as my best. Sometimes I did better, sometimes I did a bit less, but that is something that I try to do it. Please.
So audience, feel free to raise your hand and I can give you, oh, I already see a question in the chat box, but if anyone would like to speak their question, you could just go ahead and raise your hand. David, can you see the question in the chat box, or would you like me to read it out to you?
Ricky here from Nod Leather, an auction-based second-hand marketplace. Are you actively looking to partner with startups only different aspect on banking services? Yes, as MBF, I think that is mentioned, Ricky, right? Yes, part of the digitalization journey that we have in MBF is creating new product in a different way, dealing with also fintech. If you don't have the energy or the force to do it internally, keeping ourselves open as much as we can. So yes, we, for example, launched last year a completely new open platform for SME. It's not just open platform in terms of technology. Yes, it's also technology, but it's open in the sense of has been built completely from scratch with a community of SME. So for the project management perspective, we involve the community directly from the beginning. In that sense, we are we are trying to join fintechs and kind of external companies, also SMEs, that are providing services in the kind of platform. Services that can be provided to the SMEs that are part of this kind of community. So yes, of course.
David, there is a second part to his question. Have you found convincing the old banking order something challenging? And he also asks, is the bank looking at developing more of a venture debt kind of finance options for the startup community?
Yes, is it part of the, so the first part of the consideration, what I found sometimes hard to convincing is, the first one is defining the kind of the vision, the kind of, and explaining the business model. Sometimes in the panel that maybe you're explaining, and also the fact that I'm sometimes too technical, I'm trying to explaining the concept technically, to explain how the business model works. You need to balance sometimes the business perspective with the technical perspective, so that you're explaining the why is important to achieve that kind of vision, but also how easily you can integrate this kind of technology or build completely from scratch a product. So that is the challenge, balancing this kind of vision and communicate as best as you can this kind of vision. The second part of the question was?
The second part of the question is the bank also looking at developing more of a venture debt kind of finance options for the startup community?
Yeah. To be honest, it's not in our short-term kind of to-do list, but yes, because we are dealing with different part of the business. As you know, MBF is a corporate bank. So we are dealing directly with corporate, small business, medium-sized business. We have, of course, retail, and they're accounting a smaller part of our revenue. The bigger part is the corporate part. And we are pulled by the needs of the corporates and the SME. So that, yes, they're starting to have this kind of segment in the business that are coming up from the needs of the SME, but yes, we have in the roadmap for that.
There is another question from Amin. What is the best way to become a fintech partner to MBF in your digital transformation journey? Is there a process to register the company and be invited to upcoming projects, technical challenges?
We usually, we are partnering with the main FinTech hub in the region, with, of course, also with FinTech Hive. That always been the first kind of entrance for us, stay in touch with the FinTech. And not just that one, but the FinTech can reach us. We also make scouting directly in the market if we are making hackathons, because maybe we have some specific ideas. But my team, me and my team, is the entry point, is the main entry point for the FinTechs, for creating idea in the digital transformation journey for the bank. You can reach me in every way as possible through FinTech Hive or directly. There's no problem. We have different kind of perspective, different kind of business line that we are taking care in the digital transformation. Again, corporate, retail, and many of them we have in the roadmap to fulfill very soon.
David, I can also see in the chat box someone is asking to get in contact with you directly. Would you prefer that they contact you through your email or LinkedIn?
As you want, email or LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn or email. The email, I think, is available, right? Is available with you. My email.
Sorry?
The Gmail.
Yes,
my
yes,
email,
yes.
dejegerson@gmail.com, is available.
Yes, it is. I'll just type it in here for the audience. Does anyone have any questions, anything you want to raise with David?
Yes, which is the main kind of issue that maybe you are facing, or you face, or you think that you will face in the future in your journey, in the startup journey, if you are in a startup or whatever?
David, I can see a question has come in. Which are the leading investors who specialize in fintech or edtech business model in the region?
Oh, if you ask the FinTech Hive, they are in touch with really good investors. There are some funds that are starting to look with very high interest in the region, not just UAE, Bahrain, but also Kuwait and many other kind of country in the region. The interest because the peculiarities of the region is very unique, and the setting of the regulation, it's and the willingness of the government to host the startups and create the environment for the startup is very unique. And in so not much part of the world you can find such a fertile kind of environment for the startup, and also for international companies that want to move the headquarters here and maybe scale their business model towards in other regions is very unique, and there is a lot of kind of interest from the funds. But yes, we are in touch with many funds. I don't want to name them directly to not any kind of difference. But I think that, and I'm sure that FinTech Hive is one of the kind of highway in which you can use for putting yourself in touch with the funds.
And I can also add to that, David, that the DIFC actually has a FinTech fund. And I will put the link here also in the chat box for anyone that's interested to learn more. And you can even apply online to the fund.
Great.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions?
If you expected to have slides from me, I'm usually don't have slides. I'm trying to share my experience, my thinking, and this is an opportunity for you guys, for try to share what you're experiencing, and maybe put in common some kind of experience that maybe can help you. This is a moment for you guys, not for me.
I can see another question has come in as well. So Muhammad asks, I'm thinking to start a firm on teleworking. Do you think that there is a market for it besides Zoom or so, or is it vain to enter this market?
Ooh, interesting. I think that if you have this kind of ideas, you really have this kind of feelings about the market. Because yes, the main players here are Zoom, Microsoft Teams. You know, in Gartner, they are creating this kind of metrics in which they are positioning the main players in this kind of specific market. And yes, to be honest, it's a crowded market with specific common features. Usually when you're designing a business model in a red kind of ocean, as you can define this kind of ocean, because you know that there's a blue ocean and red ocean. Red ocean is the much more competitive kind of industry. The blue ocean is when they're completely new, there are less competitors, and I mean, this kind of industry is not a blue ocean. There are a lot of competitors, so you have to find a way to differentiate yourself. Maybe if you're starting here locals, when we were thinking when founding Noon.com, at the beginning we were thinking to create a e-commerce platform starting from a local culture and bringing in the platform the very local taste of the region. That's what we, with our high quality, outstanding customer experience. Because the customer experience in that time, 2015, was one of the main aspect that was the current platform was were lacking. So you have to observe the products that are in the market currently and try to differentiate yourself. And yes, try to estimate the potential kind of people that can use your services. And maybe the majority of the time, a kind of test in the market is the main kind of phase that it point you to the right direction if it's make it worth or not to launch a product.
Okay, Mohammed, I hope that answers your question. There's another question from Kumail, and he asks, I want to know the UAE policy and support on innovation.
There are a lot of UAE from the government for the free zone and also from the central bank kind of regulation, depending also from the kind of industry. If you look into the financial industry, if you look into a non-financial industry, there are many kind of regulation. DFC, for example, and DC in Abu Dhabi is one of the main that are driving the openness in the regulation. Central banks are preparing also on the open banking regulation. That's the next wave, very interesting to deal with. It depending a lot from what you want to do. But if you see also the plan that the government in terms of new plan in the innovation, Dubai 2030, Dubai 2050, these are kind of vision that are driving a lot the innovation in the region, and then a cascade, all the kind of industry, they are adapting themselves with the program. Depending a lot, we can also keep in touch, and I can give you directly specifically kind of regulation, the KYC and so forth.
I can add to that and say that the DIFC, as David said, has its own regulator. Our regulator is the DFSA, and I'm going to link here on the chat box their page on innovation, and maybe that you'll find relevant to you. We also have a YouTube channel on, and we have a video up there by the DFSA on their regulation policies. We have a video from, I think it was earlier this year or maybe last year, but we have one coming up soon about their updated policies. So maybe you'll find that one useful as well.
Mohammed Gouali, it says that he didn't mind question. Which question? Maybe we skip a question.
Mohammed, if you can retype your question, sorry, because I don't see your question here. But I can see that we have some questions in the chat box. Let me start by Aaron. Aaron was actually part of our accelerator program. And his question is, I'm coming from a fintech that improves the digital customer experience. Getting tech resources and priorities is always a challenge. Do you have any metrics on how to show the best ROI on customer experience?
The customer, guys. You're sitting in your business model and you have to prove that it's working, yes or no. In the start, it's working like that. You have the board that give you the money. So you have to prove to them, to the board, that your business model is working. The best is not telling them how it's working, is to let the customer to tell the board that it's working. So make the test, collect the feedback from your bunch of customers, and let them to tell to your board that the business model is working. Then depending how you are build up your business model, maybe through an app, through a kind of application. If you tell me something more what you're doing, maybe I can be a bit more precise. You can also speak, I think, Fatima, if you want.
Yeah, Aaron, if you like, you can raise your hand. And, oh, here we go.
Tell me, Aaron.
Hi, David. Yeah,
Hey.
thanks for taking the question. Yeah, no, I mean, we're always getting pushback with internal prioritization, so it's always like a nice to have versus a need to have. I just feel like with a lot of banks we're approaching, it's hard to put a number against the customer experience. For sure, we're doing things like Net Promoter Score, or rather our bank partners are doing that net promoter score. But definitely we see the results where it showed it, it pushes it forward, definitely. But I guess it's just hard to put a number against that to get the technical teams to move.
Because, it's not easy also. I mean, I understand that you are creating kind of application for improving the customer experience, whatever you want, use that kind of application, right? That means that in theory, the application is collecting data from the behavior of the customer through the application.
Yes.
And is improving that, it is supposed to improve the kind of based on data, the behavior, streamlining process and getting feedback from the customer. If it's working like that, right? Right. So the challenge that you are finding is that you are not able to the challenge is prioritizing correctly the feature of the application, if I understood.
Yeah, I mean, customers love it and we're getting that data and that feedback. But just because customers love it, that's not a dollar number. It's hard to make a business case when customers love it and you can show that. It's just I guess I just wanted to know in your experience if what a winning business case is.
I'm doing something like that in MBF, and I call it like a customer experience management system. That is a bunch of applications plus approach plus processes and policies that will allow us to improve the customer experience of the bank in the next future, right? What does it mean? It means that we are using application like yours to reading the data to tracking the kind of behavior of the customer in interacting on our services. And the value, the return of the investment that I had to do it with the business is showing them the dollars attached to the improvement in their specific processes. I give you an example. This customer experience management system, we starting up last year, applying in the onboarding process. The onboarding process for the corporate business kind of department is key. So I demonstrated with the tool, with the data gathered from the tool, and the new kind of results achieved by the customer experience, plus the feedback, qualitative feedback. The report should be, in my view, a mix of qualitative plus quantitative data. And through the quantitative data plus the qualitative, try to inherit a kind of dollars on, in our case, was the number of minutes that we saved in the relation manager in doing the KYC. That was translating in dollars because time saved is also kind of dollars, right? So, but that was just an example because we were demonstrating on the business corporate, on the specific process, what we did. And when they saw the kind of how much dollars we save daily, they started to say, oh, wow, seriously? Then we can apply this kind of tools in here. They talked about a kind of processes with features for the payments and so forth. But maybe, given that your application is a kind of generalized application, is depending from the business model in which you are offering the application. You got my point?
Yeah. I mean, we try to
try to translate. It's like pitching your application in an advisory way to a company that need to increase the customer experience. but they should be based on their business model, their business processes. That means that you cannot say nothing until you are doing a sort of POC in which you are demonstrating that potentially you can reach that kind of results. It's a kind of, advisory kind of specific first part of the business, right? In which you are gathering your the business kind of how they are working, and you're thinking how your application could fit based on your business processes, and make a quick POC. It makes sense, Aaron?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's hard to get banks sometimes to talk about their problems and to get into that advisory position. Not every bank is so transparent about what they're working on, right? So that's the other.
Then
that's
another problem. If this is another perspective, could be the majority of the bank, they are thinking about. At least we implemented this kind of approach from some years ago. It's called 3A approach, 3A strategy. 3A, that's 3 times A. That is acquisition, activation, and activity. I didn't invent nothing, is becoming from McKinsey. So is and try to think in that perspective how which are the business processes that they are implementing for acquire new customer, the business process they are implementing for activate a new customer, because when a new customer is onboarding, acquired, then need to be activated to make transaction, right? And when is starting to make transaction, the third A is activity. You need to sustain the transaction through the activities. So these 3 kind of different phases of the life cycle for the bank they have specific business processes. It would be good if your application translate how inside this kind of 3 phases could improve the customer experience to increase the acquisition, the activation, and the activity. Tell me if I'm most clear.
Yeah, definitely. I have it crystal clear in my head. That's been helpful. So thank you.
I can also help you maybe later throughout.
Just as a warning, I'm going to be reaching out to you. I think I've got something for you. So
great.
Thank you so much for
great. But which is your stage of the startup? You just develop for the application?
No. We're live with clients, with banks and payment networks. So great. We are. We're still in the seed financing part of it, but we're going towards Series A right now. And
how is big your team?
About 30 people.
Great.
Yeah.
That's very great. And
I wouldn't say we're in the spin up yet. We're trying to walk before we run, but we're close. Yeah.
That's great. And when you're starting up the company?
It was a few years ago. We pivoted like every good company does. So we didn't expect to go in the direction we were, but we've now found our lane to run in. So
that is you see that one in my view is one of the best kind of suggestion. Also you can share with everyone. You can have a clear vision at the beginning. When you're starting up, I'm sure that you had a clear vision, or you're thinking to have a clear vision.
Yeah.
Then
right.
when you're starting up, and when you started to have the first tests with the clients, that you're starting to receive the first slap in the face, in a way, right? And then you are not diverging, but changing a bit the grade of your direction. It's normal. It's really normal. The point is that you have to be really, in my view, open to the suggestion from the people that are in the arena, right? Not because people that take the liberty to give you advice, maybe in some starting from position that they don't know nothing about your business model, and you have to filter in my view, also the kind of advice you can receive. So being open, yes, enough to get the right advice to keep your track in the right direction. And that is a good, in my view, a good point, Aaron.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, banks are really good at banking, but not so great at customer experience. Yeah. So that's what we found out. And there's a lot of opportunity there.
But you know why?
So
you know why? You know better than me, because our mind. I mean, I can classify myself as a kind of hybrid kind of thing. I'm not defining, but if you won't classify me, I can be a hybrid of fintech man and bankers, a sort of. And I can tell you, they are really, the bankers are typically they have a mindset to following the regulation, to be compliant with the regulation as much as they can. And they don't have the customer orientation that typically the startup has. They have this kind of orientation in the startup because they need to build something on their business model. They need to stay alive. So the focus is completely different. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that they cannot work together. Actually, they complement each other a lot. And what we need at the beginning, what we did at the beginning in our journey, digital transformation, me and my team, and also other components of the company, is to try to spend some time with fintech. Quarterly, spending 1 day, 2 days in the office of the DIFC FinTech Hive. Yes, we did. Working directly with them, side by side. It's a way to let the bankers of the normal person that is living that kind of environment, living a different environment. And I'm usually say, breathe the same air, feeling the kind of excitement when you have to launch something for the customer. And yes, sometimes also be worried that things will go in the right way. This kind of thing need to be fed by the bankers, and sometimes is not so easy to let them to feel. But Aaron, I got perfectly your point, and there's something that I'm trying to do in the bank.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to share.
Okay, we've had a couple more questions come in. This one's from Fred. Fred says, congratulations on your startups. Which was the most fundamental talent which enabled you to foresee and realize projected liquidity during the startup development phase of your professional career?
Sorry, the first talent, I didn't get it.
So I'll repeat the question. Which was the most fundamental talent which enabled you to foresee and realize projected liquidity during the startup development phase of your professional career?
For me, I think, right, what I found of what I leverage in my career to fund my ideas.
Yeah, Fred, if you like, you can raise your hand, and maybe if you want to clarify your question.
But as I get you, I always trying to leverage on my vision, my dream, leveraging sense of visualize to the board through also practical, tangible thing, prototypes thing. And also sometimes I recall that we did with PayPal, we did with Carta Facile, we brought some customer during the board meeting to let them to talk about the product. I know that it sounds something strange, but we did. The best way sometime to get the trust of the board to and some kind of investor, they need to feel not just you that talks about as a salesman about your idea. You need to hear someone else and kind of reference, right? So this is something that I did twice, and it works. It works.
Fred, I hope that answered your question.
If I answered your question, yeah.
And then we've had another question also from Julian. He asks, is there the ability to do a fully digital onboarding KYB process in the UAE? It exists now in Europe, but was wondering if in the UAE it exists. It's a scale issue for FinTech.
It exists in Europe, in US, because of the clear regulation in the e-signature, electronic signature, that here we are finalizing. It is something that is, for example, last year, FAB started with a kind of with a direct connection with central bank. They started to prototype a way to get the signature in an electronic process. It's called Quick Wrap. So yes, in free trade zone like a DFC, you can do it. In mainland, not yet formally, but you can talk with the central bank. And central bank is when you pitch the process at the beginning, they give you a first feedback because they are working very heavily on adapt the regulation. You can understand that it takes time, but they are working very, very hard, and they are proceeding very well. And we will have a regulation soon on that. But you can talk directly with them, and they can have some kind of a wave at the beginning, as happening some kind of a product already. Yeah, of course, we can reach me by LinkedIn, by my Gmail, email. I'm available for you guys. I'm excited in sense of let me know how I can help you as much as I can in your stages, in your startup life, in your career, as much as I can. And I love to do this kind of thing. So let me know how I can do it.